Arriving in Victoria. The first ship to arrive at Fort Victoria was a side-wheel steamer, Yosemite. Around 450 miners disembarked on April 25, 1858. Miners had to get creative about getting across the Strait of Georgia. Some people even used makeshift crafts. More ships arrived as the year progressed. By the end of the summer, more than 10,000 miners were working on the Fraser River. The Oregon Territory. The U.S. wanted to claim the Oregon Territory. The HBC had different ideas on what to do with the territory. The HBC saw the territory as an extension of Rupert's Land. The U.S. and the HBC wanted to use the territory to their advantage. The HBC did not want to encourage settlement, while the U.S. wanted to encourage settlement. By the 1830s, American settlers traveled all overland along the Oregon Trail, the colony of Vancouver Island and James Douglas. By 1848, the British government decided its territory on the Pacific coast needed a more official presence. The British created the Crown Colony of Vancouver Island. The colony's new governor, James Douglas, didn't want any more Americans in the area. He encouraged British settlers to come and settle on Vancouver Island. Free grants of land should be given to anyone who wants to settle. British government disagreed. James Douglas created a legislative assembly in 1856. Staking a claim, panning, and rocking for gold. The vast majority of gold seekers never did get rich, and some never made it home. As much as it was real, the gold rush was just as much a fantasy. The fantasy promised that you could scramble along the riverbanks of a gold-bearing creek and pick up gold nuggets the size of your fist and become wealthy overnight. Gold seekers had to stake a claim and then sink a mine shaft down to bedrock. Gold-bearing clay would be brought to the surface and the lighter material would sink away. The best places to find gold were on sandbars along rivers. In 1859, the gold deposits along the sandbars of the Fraser were almost all gone. The trip going up the Fraser River and the Caribou Importance. When traveling up the Fraser River, there was a combo of portaging and using paddle boats. There were two possible routes. The long route, which was through Harrison Lake and Lillooet River. The short route was through the treacherous Fraser Canyon. The long route took several steamer routes through the lakes. The long route cost way more. The short route cost less but was far more dangerous. The government decided to make the Caribou Road in 1862. It took 4 years to build and over $750,000 to make. Unfortunately, by the time the road was finished, so was the gold rush.
The threat of annexation with the U.S. The colony of BC had three options, which were remain a colony, have annexation with the U.S., and join Confederation. The benefits of remaining a colony of BC were that they could make their own decisions and remain loyal to the Crown. The benefits of going into annexation with the U.S. were that it could make and boost trading and have economy benefits. The benefits of joining Confederation were that the colony of BC could trade across Canada and the railroad would improve trade and it would be united against attacks against other towns. The treatment of minorities and the First Nations people. Douglas decided to negotiate with the Aboriginals about treaties. Douglas seemed to be leasing the land from the Aboriginal peoples. The colonial society had a Eurocentric view, a biased view, and had racial motives. The colony's population was mostly First Nations people. It was around 43,000 to 33,000 approximately. The First Nations people had no consultation, communication, or voice. The First Nations people were not considered citizens and could not vote. The First Nations people had a hard life under the Indian Act. Around 35% of First Nations people died to smallpox. When the gold rush occurred, First Nations people were pushed out of their land. Many First Nations people were taken advantage of by the Europeans. Judge Matthew Begbie and the law. Judge Matthew Begbie served as a judge in the Supreme Court of BC. During the Caribou Gold Rush, he played a big role in establishing law and order. After his death in 1894, he became known as the hanging judge. Some people say he did and didn't earn his reputation because he had to hang people because of the crime they committed. He was the law. Even though the law wasn't well established, Judge Matthew Begbie was the law.